Welcome to another episode of Fuck Your Job. I'm Ron Worley.
And I'm Josh Fullenweider.
Fuck your job.
Hey guys, Josh Fullenweider.
Ron Worley.
With the Fuck Your Job podcast and the Jobless Legion and all that stuff. And we wanted to chat a little bit about hiring today because right before we did this, I actually I didn't hire. I interviewed my first person for one of my businesses.
Yeah, so. And he was pretty up there, right?
Yeah, it's her.
Her, okay.
And it's for my IV drip business, Drip Bar. And so I was actually talking to somebody to be my medical director. So somebody with way more qualifications and education and experience than I have. And it was a little bit intimidating, and I had put it off for a couple of weeks as I was anxious about it. I was doing research and trying to learn everything I could about the business so I could sound super smart. And she starts talking. I'm like, I don't know. Talking to me about her experience. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Dumb it down for me. So obviously you're kind of normal in that way. I never really looked at you as a normal person in that way. You were anxious about it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because why?
Because almost like I felt like a fraud. You're going to be working for me, but you're more experienced and intelligent and know more about my business than I do.
But that's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
Right. You always want to hire somebody more intelligent, better than you,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You just have the greatest idea on earth. That's it. That's how most entrepreneurs are.
Right.
So, but I totally get that, man. Like, you've got to be able to speak intelligently so that you can attract her, but also so that you know if she's good or not. It's kind of, you don't know how good she really is because you're not comparing her to another doctor at the time, right?
Right.
You're not educated in doctoring enough in the medical field enough to be able to do that. So how did you prepare then?
So I prepared, Drip Bar, which is a franchise, I went through a bunch of their courses and I focused on, they've got say 20 courses that I'm supposed to do before I get open. But I focused on the basic hiring stuff. So looked through their job descriptions, hiring questions, all that sort of thing. And I've hired people for other positions in the past. So I kind of knew how an interview was supposed to run and everything like that. But just to be able to talk about the things that are up here versus your entry level down here, which is mostly what I've hired in the past. So went through all of that, focused on, like I said, the HR stuff, but also the stuff that would be relevant to a medical director. So what the IV drips are, and there was a bunch of medical terms in one of the courses that I took, and I still don't remember them. So in the interview, we start talking. I'm like, look, this isn't me. I don't know anything about medicine. That's your realm. Tell me what you think I should know. And I just kind of threw up my hands and said, I'm not going to master.
Yeah.
You spent 10 years mastering this subject. I'm not going to master it in 10 days enough to
some little course
bullshit you.
Right. So that's a pretty good idea. Generally, when I'm speaking to anybody, because I have an issue with everybody. When I'm talking to you, I don't feel as smart as you. When I talk to somebody else, I don't feel as smart as them. That's my own psychological BS.
Okay.
But over the years, I've learned how to adapt and conquer those situations.
Okay.
We always bring it back to something that we can have in common, that we both know about. If we're talking about football, because I'm trying to get to know you and I just want to talk about football so that I can see, or something, you and I come together on the middle ground quite a bit. We find things, and then I can ask you questions about the things I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't feel stupid because I know something else over here.
Well, and that's a big part of it. I mean, I don't think that I necessarily feel intimidated by other people's intelligence all that time, but I definitely know when somebody knows more than I do.
Yeah.
Like, way more about bail bonds than I will ever know.
Right.
and I've sought your advice a lot on hiring and locations as I've gone through things. And you might not think that you're giving me advice when we're having those conversations, but I go back and I write down notes. I'm like, this is what Ron said.
So it's there. And you know what? The reason I boiled everything down in the hiring process to values is because that's something I could speak to. It's something that brings everybody down to a level that's like equal playing ground. When you're talking to somebody about their family values, all of a sudden all that education and all the pompous crap that they've been, I mean, imagine if that doctor was asked not a single medical question, but rather, what's your family what are your 3 main values in life? All of a sudden she'd be tripping on herself. Oh, well, that's a weird question. Now it's personal. It kind of makes them vulnerable, and also brings you up to their level. So now all of a sudden you're on equal playing ground, maybe for yourself and for them, to realize that you're not, maybe your company isn't going to be all about education. And I don't know, it just seems to me like it brings out the real in people. And that's what we're always looking for.
Well, it being my first interview for a company that I own, it was more, okay, I really can't make sure I don't ask any of the questions that are big no-nos.
Right.
Like, you can't ask about pregnancies and things like that. Are you planning on having kids in the next 5 years?
When we owned our first Max Muscle store, we had our first interview, we were given like 7 or 8 sheets of questions we're supposed to ask in an interview, and it was like this long ass interview.
Oh, geez.
Didn't remember any of it. I'm taking notes on all these questions, and we're asking essay questions.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is silly.
Yeah.
We got it down. Erin is really good about just making notes, and she just bop, 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 and then, but they're one-liners. What about this? Do you have are you a criminal? Do you have any criminal background? When did you start this? She would ask all her, what I would call qualifying questions, and then I would go into the deeper stuff, like the values and all that. And that would be at the end, towards the end, when you're educated, you don't have a criminal background.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
What's next?
And that was the big thing. I'm like, for her, I'm like, I don't know what qualifications you need for this job. Are you qualified? I've got a job description. You could tell, that's about all I've got. So,
do you got other people you got to interview, other doctors?
I don't think I'm going to. I got a really good feeling about this one. And this one was a referral also to me.
Oh, good.
So the CEO of Drip Bar actually went through nurse practitioner school with this person. So she was kind of pre-vetted already, and I kind of knew she was qualified already, and I had some insights into her already.
That's good, man.
And a referral goes a long way.
Right.
So that took a lot of the edge off.
Yeah.
And I was, and I didn't get a chance to talk to the CEO a whole lot about it, but I just said, she gave me maybe a 5-minute spiel on the lady, and made me feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. Well, your first hire.
Yeah.
I mean, in a year from now, you'll know.
Yeah.
What the next one needs to be.
And the big thing, we didn't talk about really anything to do with medicine. We talked a little bit about the logistics, because for the position, you only actually need to come on site a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
It's be available by phone, review our records and everything monthly, and then attend the monthly staff meeting. But she can attend the monthly staff meeting either on the phone or via Zoom. So, and then she's got to carry the malpractice insurance for it.
Right.
So she actually lives in southern Colorado, and we're up here in northern Colorado, so it would be a burden to be like, yeah, you need to come up here every month.
Right.
But it's just Zoom, so
bust on in.
yeah. So, but anyway, we covered a lot of the logistics and the thing about what her expectations were of the work and what kind of my expectations were, to make sure we were in alignment on, because obviously I'm pretty much taking the word of Drip Bar and making my own assumptions based off of my experiences and how I want to run the business and everything. And,
Right.
and then getting her feedback to see if that is truly how it could run.
Yeah.
Before I ever get open and know anything.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think you, at this point, you don't really know all your expectations yet either. So, you know, what they tell you that you need, but.
So we went through all that, and then it was just chatting about, you know, her kids, and
Oh, good.
I chatted a little bit about my daughter and everything like that, and just to get to know her. And we're going to do a follow-up interview because didn't want to just be like, yeah, you're hired.
Right. No, never. Never.
Especially again, when you're talking an hourly minimum wage employee, somebody comes in, you get a good feeling, oh, I'm sure you're hired, go
put your schmuck on.
Yeah, go get started. But, you know, we're talking somebody at a much higher level. And, you know, even as a commercial lender, when I was interviewing, it was multiple interviews when I would talk to people. And you never know what's going to come up. So I got a good feeling about her today. Is today just a great day for her? Or the next time I talk to her, is it going to be the real her? You know, how is it going to fit? So,
well, I think you probably did a great job knowing you, and you prepared. But
the good thing is she really understood what she needed to talk about.
Yeah.
So I had a list of questions I wanted to make sure I addressed, and then I made my list. I got the list from Drip Bar. I got another list from another my other business, and kind of added things together and made sure I had a complete list. And then she started talking, and we just started talking. I get to the end of the interview, I'm like, well, yeah, we covered those, that. I don't need to cover that. So she really, and
she talked a lot.
She talked a lot, and she gave me a good understanding. She answered the questions without me asking them.
So would you tell our listeners that that's actually a good idea, is to let them talk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to let somebody else just talk?
I do. I'm sitting here chomping at the bit right now.
Right. There's a few videos when I'm just like, I want to chat. I want to talk, but let Ron talk.
No, it is hard, but that's when you learn the most about them, and a lot of times they put their foot in their mouth. I always look for, like, I'm out there looking for the negatives. You know, what's the BS? You know. So prepare for the interview.
Yeah.
Break them down to your level, or at least get you up to their level.
Yeah.
Let them talk, and then don't hire on the spot for most jobs.
Most jobs are not a hire on the spot.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the purpose of this episode was basically you were feeling like this is a doctor, you've got to interview a doctor, and your education is as high.
Yeah.
So, but by the end of it, you guys were on equal playing ground.
Yeah, you know, when it comes down to it, it's kind of economics, supply and demand.
Yeah.
I've got a job I need filled. She wants to work. So.
Right. And I think the basics are still there. It doesn't matter if it's a doctor, a lawyer. When you're hiring somebody, you're in the power position.
Yeah.
And we got to remember that when this is your company, you're going to run it the way you want to. They've got to fit into that, no matter how educated they are. Max Muscle's hired some doctors over the years. We have 2 doctors, in fact, that went on to be doctors, but we got them in college.
Okay.
And they're highly educated, but they never were put in a position where they're they knew more about supplementation than I ever did. Nutrition, all that. They knew thousands times more because they were educated.
Okay.
But I wrote the check, so you know.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure now it would be different because they're adults, and you know, they're not just kids you hire.
Maybe not. I mean,
I don't know.
Especially if they came back to you, you've already established that you're the position of authority, and so they might come back to you and still view you as the boss.
Right. They may. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let me put it into perspective for you. So I always, whenever I'd go into a doctor's office, since we're on the doctor's thing, they put you in there and they make you wait, right? And I don't know how many countless hours I've lost in my life waiting on doctors in that little room for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Well, one time I went in for my heart doctor, and we waited in that room for an hour, waiting on him to show up. And we could hear him next door, we could hear him over on the other side, and he's never coming in, and for an hour. And I finally just said, screw this, I'm out of here. Now, it's a heart doctor. Like, I need to see this guy. I finally said, screw it. And I got up and I walked out and I started to just leave. And the nurse or somebody stopped me and said, oh, Ron, he's coming in any minute. I said, look, my time's just as important as his time. And he's got me in here for an hour, and I'm paying him $250 an hour, but I'm losing $400 on the side here. And he came running in and apologetic, and I said, look, man, just on a business side, if you were a business out in the world, this wouldn't fly. You didn't have a customer.
I hate the whole setup of doctors like that. I just think it's
and he was super apologetic, and they had a nurse missing or something, and so it set him up behind. But you come in and you tell somebody, hey, this is what's going on. Can we get you back in, or do you want to sit and wait? Give me an option. Think about it. But these are things that you and I would know about business that a doctor doesn't know. They just know what they've been taught. You know what I mean? So there's different forms of education, and you're absolutely equal to the doctor that you just hired. If not more, because you're writing the damn check.
What I'm curious about, and maybe there's this service out there, but as I've been experimenting with Drip Bar and trying to figure out my actual operations plan for nurses and everything, and the people, giving you the IV drips, is there a service out there where people can, almost like an employment services, day workers for nurses, where they can be, where if you've got a nurse call out sick, and like my operation, if I've got 4 nurses total, or say if I've just got one full-time nurse and she calls out sick, or she goes on vacation for a week, do I shut down?
No.
But if she's my full-time nurse, why would I hire another person?
So you need to have a part-time nurse. I know those exist. And if they don't, let's start it.
So, but like a hospital, you've got, say, 50 nurses working in a hospital. If one nurse calls out sick, there's 49 other nurses that they can call in or absorb the workload. But if you're talking like your little doctor's office, he's got 2 nurses working for him and himself, and one of them calls out sick, it throws the whole system off. And now he's potentially losing out on your money because he can't, doesn't have the time to do you, because you're paying him $250. He's turning around paying $35 an hour to a nurse, so he's making $200 different, minus expenses, of course.
That's a lot of money.
But now it's really costing him $250 to do that $35 an hour job.
So, do you think, have you seen any services out there like that?
I haven't, but I haven't really done a whole lot of research yet either.
I'll ask my nurse friend that we have in the family here, because there's got to be.
Because I know there's like traveling nurses. But you just think that there's a service out there where, hey, I've got a nurse need today, and I just need somebody to come in. We can train them on the spot, but they need to be certified in this, this, and this. I've got a front desk person that's going to answer the questions.
Like the schools do with, what do you call those?
I don't know. Substitutes.
There you need a substitute nurse.
That took me a minute.
Well, okay, so if it's not out there, we're going to start that, but I think it's out there, and if not, you probably should just go through your list and hire extras to be on call.
Well, and that's the thing is, when I was originally setting all this up, I'm like, do I just hire a full-time nurse, or do I have a full-time and a part-time? And they said, most likely you'll hire 4 or 5 nurses, part-time nurses. One will eventually grow and be your primary, but you're never probably going to have a full-time 40-hour-a-week person if you're only open 45 hours a week, because that person's going to get sick, that person's going to need to go on vacation and have time off and all. And you'll need the others to absorb the workload. So
I see potential for having a bloated payroll, because you got to keep them busy so they don't leave.
And that's the concern, and really it's going to be, and their thought is, or Drip Bar's thought is, probably going to be your working moms who have a husband working full-time already, and they're just coming back to the workforce to work a handful of hours a week. And
Right.
you got to be upfront and be like, I'm hiring you for 2 6-hour shifts a week.
That's it.
That's it. If you want a 40-hour-a-week job, this is not it. Or
Right.
if you want 4 6-hour shifts a week or 3 or whatever it is, we need to have that conversation up front, or you need to be willing to trade around and get your get the shifts. So
Yeah. Well, I think it could work. I mean, shoot, and you'll have people come and go too.
yeah,
You know, that's going to be the challenge, is keeping up with that.
yeah. Now, when I originally started doing all this, I was thinking that I was told nurses, but the more research I've done is that there's some, what's the designation? Phlebotomist?
Yeah, where they just do the
Yeah,
poking.
this is all they need.
Yep.
So, you know, if I've got a nurse who, because the biggest concern is the mixing of the vitamins and minerals in the bags, because we do that on site, typically the day of.
Okay.
Otherwise, the minerals and everything start to break down in the solution. So you got to have somebody qualified to do that, and typically a nurse is qualified to do both.
Okay.
So,
Oh, so you do have to have a nurse. You can't have.
but you know, could I get a nurse to come in for an hour and mix 6
Right.
bags, and then a phlebotomist to work the rest of the day just sticking people?
Right. That. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you said that. How could you? Maybe they come in for an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon.
Yeah.
During their other shifts, and you hire somebody who's actually a nurse somewhere else, and they just.
Yeah. But yeah, if somebody knows about a substitute nursing thing,
Yeah, let
I'd be
him know.
interested to know about it before I get open.
It's going to be an ancillary business of yours. You're going to have one, because then you have. That's how you're going to have a pool of people.
That was my. Ideally, I'd like to open more than just one anyway.
Yeah.
But it almost makes sense to open 3 or 4 of them, so that you have a larger pool of nurses to draw on. Yes, they're more geographically diverse, but I'd pay somebody for an hour to drive to work an 8-hour shift and an hour back, just so I'm not closed for those 8 hours.
Right. Yep.
I mean, it makes way more sense to pay.
I hear the need for you to get your nurse's license.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. So here's the funny thing about me opening this thing. I've got a little bit of a phobia of doctors. I've got an extreme phobia of needles. Like I went and got my first drip a while back, and like we got the mask on, so I'm hyperventilating in the mask. Rebecca thought I was going to pass out. She's like, he's not doing well, and they're like, well, take your mask down so you can breathe. I'm like, and that helped a ton.
Yeah.
Well, of course it's Corona. I'm like, and I'm dying in the mask
Yeah.
over here. And then I almost passed out one time giving blood, and I just had like 4 little vials to fill for some blood tests, and so yeah, and then
Awesome.
And now I'm like, yeah, let's go do a needle business.
Yeah.
This is great. But it's that my belief that this business can actually help people so much,
Yeah.
that it's overcoming all those fears and phobias and doctor anxiety that I have.
Amen.
And like, I don't, I've got Western medicine issues, and like, I can go off on a tangent about how much I believe in Eastern ancient traditions versus modern Western medicine. But
Yeah, and here you are.
here I am, needles and
You kind of mix the two, though, because the needle with the Eastern medicine, basically, because you're using supplements in a needle.
yeah.
Wow, your little spidey senses are just tingling.
Oh man.
You're just gonna have to do it like every day for a year or something, and then you'll be fine.
So I used to give plasma because we were broke college kids. Twice a week, go and give plasma, and
Did that get easier?
yeah. But surprisingly, my fainting and everything issues have been more recently than when I gave plasma.
Oh, okay.
So I think I just am no longer used to it. So
Hilarious. On that note, should we call that?
yeah, we should call it. We started talking about random stuff on the hiring thing.
Every time.
Yeah. All right, guys.
See ya.
Join us on Facebook at the Jobless Legion, or subscribe to our YouTube channel and like, comment, and share
so that we can get the message out to aspiring entrepreneurs just like you.
Thank you.